Children, we are in the first chapter, Transportation of Water in Plants. In my first video, I had explained you about osmosis, diffusion and active transport. In my second video, I shall explain you some few more topics like permeability, sap, different types of pressure and forces which enables the movement of the sap, and then type of osmosis, transpiration and movement of water through leaf. What is permeability? Permeability is the degree of diffusion of gases, liquids and dissolved substances through a membrane. Degree of diffusion. What does it mean, degree of diffusion? Degree of diffusion means the ability of a substance to pass through these membranes. Permeable membrane. Permeable membrane is said to be the freely permeable membrane. Freely in the sense it allows free passage of solvent and most of the dissolved substance. Example, cell wall in plant cells. Impermeable membrane. It is completely impermeable as it do not allow entry of water, dissolved substances and gases. Example, rubber sheet. Semi-permeable membrane, also called moderate permeable membrane, as it allows water molecules to pass through them but resists solute molecules. Example, parchment paper or egg membrane. Selectively permeable membrane. Selectively permeable membrane is a membrane which allows useful substances to pass in and harmful substances to diffuse out of the cell. Example, cell membrane. This selectively permeable membrane is very selective in nature. Next question is, how do roots absorb water from the soil? The roots absorb water from the soil by osmosis, which takes up in the root hair zone. Can you see here root hair zone? This is the place where water absorption takes place. And inside the root hair there is high concentration than the soil solution. Root hairs are in direct contact with the water that is around the soil particles. Root hair pick up the water that is transferred inward by cell to cell osmosis, and this cell to cell osmosis happens due to the higher concentration inside the root. Root hair cells has high concentrated solution that is known as cell sap. That is known as cell sap. And this cell sap, as it moves inwards and reaches the cell which surrounds the xylem channel, gets accumulated near the or at the basal part of the xylem channel. This xylem acts as a capillary tube, okay, and this salt solution get accumulated and creates a pressure. That pressure is known as root pressure, and this root pressure which helps in pushing the sap upwards. The upward movement of the water or sap from the roots towards the top of the plant takes place, and then it is equally distributed to all parts of the plant. The next question is, what is root pressure? The pressure developed in the root which helps in pushing the sap upward is known as root pressure. I explained you in this slide, the root pressure is created at the basal part of the xylem due to the accumulation of salt solution, and this causes the upward movement of the sap. What is sap? The water absorbed by plants is also called sap because it is actually a dilute solution of minerals. What is ascent of sap? The upward movement of water or sap from the roots towards the top of the plant is called ascent of sap. Can you see from the roots to the top of the plant as it moves and then towards the top of the plant is known as ascent of sap. And this ascent of sap is due to the help of three forces. What are the three forces? Capillary force, root pressure, transpiration pull. Capillary force. Xylem tissue function as the capillary tubes through which water rises up by capillary action. This xylem tissue, can you see? This xylem tissue acts as a capillary tube, and through this the water rises up by the help of capillary action. Now root pressure, as I have explained in previous slide, that root pressure is created inside the root due to the accumulation of salt solution, and which enables the pushing up of the cell sap to the top of the plant, developed in the root due to the continuous inflow of water into it. Okay, then transpiration pull. Transpiration pull, when there is loss of water from the leaves, develop a force which pulls water from the root to the top of the plant. To the top of the plant, the pull source setup is called transpiration pull. This pull is so strong that it can draw the water till 50 meter or more in trees. The water travels up the vessels in the vascular bundles continuously, and this flow of water is called the transpiration stream. Can you see from the root the water is drawn upward and it moves upward, and then in different directions it is equally distributed, and this way the continuous flow of water to the top of the plant can also cause due to the force that developed in the root. That force can also be known as transpiration pull, and this continuous flow of water towards the top of the plant is also known as transpiration stream. Can you see this continuous flow of water from the root to the top is due to the transpiration pull? Now next question is define turgor pressure. What is turgor pressure? On absorption of water, a plant cell becomes swollen or turgid. The protoplasm of this turgid cell presses the cell wall outside with a force called turgor pressure. This is one diagram I want to show you here. This diagram shows that when the water enters the cell gets swollen up, and this swelling up of the cell is known as turgid cell, and this turgid cell develops a pressure which presses against the cell wall, and this causes due to the pressure known as turgor pressure. Okay, now we'll come to transpiration. What is transpiration? Loss of water. Can you see the loss of water over here in the aerial part of the leaf? Okay, in the aerial part of the plant in the form of vapors, and this is what called transpiration. There is one experiment set up over here. Can you see the picture? This experiment, if we take a small potted plant and cover it with a transparent polythene bag, keep this setup under the sun for few hours. Can you see here tiny droplets? Tiny droplets. This tiny droplets shows the transpiration process has taken place in this potted plant. Okay. The next question is, what are the role of osmosis? Absorption of water by plant roots. Second, movement of water and minerals from one cell to another. These two are done by the help of osmosis. Now, osmosis, related to osmosis, there are four terms: endosmosis, exosmosis, plasmolysis, deplasmolysis. Endosmosis. Endosmosis means water moves inside. Water moves inside. Can you see water getting in? And this, once when water moves inside, the cell becomes turgid. Next question is exosmosis. Exosmosis can also be known as flaccid, or the cell becomes flaccid cell. The water moves out. The water comes outside and the cell becomes shrink. The protoplasm of the cell or the vacuole becomes shrink and loses its shape. Now next is plasmolysis. Plasmolysis, where the water, here also same thing happens like in exosmosis. In exosmosis, water moves out. Here also, can you see water moves out and the cell or the vacuole shrinks and loses its shape. Whereas deplasmolysis, it is just like endosmosis, in which the water enters or goes inside and it retains its original shape. These are the four terms related to osmosis. And this you can see the picture, different stages of plasmolysis. Okay, first one is simple normal cell. From second, B, C, D, these are the different stages. Ultimately you can see the cytoplasm gets shrink and it loses its shape. The next question is, explain the movement of water through leaf. Here is the picture or cross section of the leaf. The outer layer of the leaf is having cuticle just above the upper epidermis. This is upper epidermis. Just below upper epidermis, there is a layer called palisade cell. This palisade cell has chloroplast, which is green in color and helps in photosynthesis. Just below palisade, there is spongy cell. Can you see spongy cell over here? This spongy mesophyll cell has air cavity in between, but it does not contain chloroplast, neither it helps in the photosynthesis. Just after spongy mesophyll, below spongy mesophyll cell, there is a layer called lower epidermis. Lower epidermis. In lower epidermis, there is stomata. Can you see stomata? And this stomata is guarded by guard cell. This is guard cell. And just above stomata, there is stomatal air cavity. And in the center, there is a vascular bundle which has xylem and phloem tissues. Okay, now let us see how water moves through the leaf. Okay, the xylem vessels sends the water into the cells and a cell to cell movement takes place. This cell to cell movement of water takes place till it reaches the stomatal air cavity. As it reaches the stomatal air cavity, where they get evaporated due to the heat of the sun and moves out of the stomata in the form of vapor. Today in this video I explained you about permeability, types of forces and pressures which helps the ascent of sap, and about transpiration, types of osmosis, and also about the movement of water through leaf. In next video I would explain you about the conducting tissue, that is xylem and phloem.